COD Zombies is no stranger to one-off niche weapons that totally suck. The most prevalent examples are the crossbow, ballistic knife, and the VR-11. While these do have some uses, they're very circumstantial, and only the awful lot could ever even be considered a viable mule kick weapon. Since all these suck at killing, what better to use for a round 50 than the ballistic knife? Just to point this out real quick, obviously this is my gameplay, but I got the idea of the video from Russian to race to round 50 with an awful weapon. Oh, and I told myself that I can't camp on Alpha Omega because that would just be way too easy. So I spent a really long time thinking about this loadout, and it still turned out to be awful. For my perks, I chose Victorious Tortoise to help shield myself because of how close I'm going to need to get, Blaze Phase to hopefully get me out of any sticky situations, Ethereal Razor for additional melee damage and range, and then Electric Cherry is the modifier to be able to charge up melee shocks. In hindsight, Blaze Phase was a mostly useless choice that I just completely wasted. For elixirs, I chose In Plain Sight to help save me in my inevitable death corners, Temporal Gift to try and prolong some insta-kills or double points, Perk Up to hopefully get Quick Revive, and Alchemical in case I need ammo. This was a worthless decision, as I would need to resort to melee for kills and wasted a potential pop shock slot. Finally, for my talisman, I chose an extra self-revive, which you'll see was definitely a good decision. The rest of my gear didn't actually matter, as I either wouldn't use it or it would just be swapped out. Right off the bat, obviously I can't use the ballistic knife, so I give myself just a little pass until I got it. Using the knife here on round 1 actually lets you cross the catwalk, get the shield, and turn on power on round 1, which is freaking fantastic, honestly. Once I got power, I immediately went to get the Hell's Retriever. I wasn't going to use Wraithfire since that would be cheating, so I figured I could at least use the Retriever for drops. Next, I went to pick up Ethereal Razor for some extra melee damage and to start spinning the box for the ballistic knife. I actually took the long way back to New Industries here because I wanted to leave the cafeteria entirely closed off for fast training spawns later on down the line. From the box, I got absolutely nothing of use for a while except for a Helion Salvo. Weapons with a single shot before reloading would be really helpful because they instantly recharge Electric Cherry's melee shock, and you'll see I actually used them for the entire game. On round 7, Brutus decided to spawn in and make my life absolute hell by locking the mystery box, costing me an extra 2,000 points and losing 2 box spins. No matter how hard I tried, I simply couldn't get the ballistic knife, so I started moving on to perks. Before leaving New Industries, I picked up Tortoise on round 9. After crossing the catwalk, which would prove to be quite a struggle, I went to pick up Electric Cherry the next round. Finally, on the same round, I dropped down to the docks and pick up Blaze Phase and get my modifier. Then I used Perk Up and didn't exactly get a wonderful turnout. Zombshell, Death Perception, Bloodwolf Bite, and Mule Kick. Zombshell was too niche to help what I was trying to do, Death Perception just sucks, Bloodwolf Bite would actually prove really helpful in later rounds, and Mule Kick was neat, but I didn't really need 3 guns, and that would later work to my detriment. Now it was back to spinning the box. I got a Blundergat for my fire sale, but that was my Mule Kick weapon, and that's strike 1 for Mule Kick. After the fire sale, I hit up the cafeteria's box, still to no luck. On round 16, when I was crossing the catwalk, I'd go down and lose 6 of my perks, including my Blundergat. Then I was stuck on the catwalk with bad weapons and a ton of zombies, so I had to use an In Plain Sight to barely make it out. Looking back at this, I definitely should have popped the zombie blood sooner, or else held out my shield and I would have been fine. Luckily for me at least, Tortoise was right near me. On my way back across the catwalk once again to get Ethereal Razor, I got stuck, but this time I was smart enough to pull out my shield. Once I was in the clear, I used my last perk up and got Bloodwolf Bite, Quick Revive, Stone Cold Stronghold, and Mule Kick. While I didn't care for the last 2, I was freaking out in my chair over getting Quick Revive and Bloodwolf Bite. After I got Ethereal again, it was back to the box. Here I got the Blundergat once again, but for the second time in a row, it was in my Mule Kick slot. Strike 2. Finally though, on round 16, I got the Ballistic Knife. All that was left now was to upgrade them and to start the grind to 50. I started out by training on the rooftop to test how this was going to work. I'd grab a full horde and then shock melee them, but I quickly found out that this isn't quite as good as pop shocks. Only the zombies I actually hit get affected by the shocks, so I had to get really close to the horde to deal damage. This would become a serious problem later. At least with the Blendergat and Helion, I could instantly recharge my shock though. I found that the shock swipe actually became incredibly useful if I got stuck in a corner as well, which helped me make this a bit more bearable. What didn't make it any more bearable though, was dogs. Every time one spawned in, I had to perk up and deal with it instantly or else it completely ruined my flow. Little did I know that the worst was yet to come though. On round 19, I dealt with my first Warden round. These would prove to be awful because I'd get 3 to 5 Wardens and this knife is terrible against him. It took lots of training, traps, shock melees, and blaze phase uses to kill each Warden. My biggest issue I faced on the roof was how far the shield was. There wasn't enough time to buy one back before the start of a new round, so getting one was really risky. On round 23, I got cornered and had to use a mixture of shock melee and in plain sight. That kind of tactic would save me at least 5 times during this run. As the zombies ran faster, they also started hitting faster. This would end up being my biggest issue in the entire game. You can see here that barely getting close to the horde knocked me down to a mere 50 health. On the next round here, you can also see the issue with blaze phase. I use it and I get stuck inside of a horde, I'm pretty much instantly dead. So I had to use a mixture of nukes and Luna to kill off the wardens here on this warden round. On round 30, I decided to switch to training in the cafeteria, but I had to open the doors to get easy access to the shield, ruining the speed of my strategy. I got an insta-kill here and also realized that because the shock melee was already a one-hit kill, I basically wasted yet another elixir slot with Temporal Gift. Here I also lunged into a horde on accident and almost got myself killed. On 34 I got cornered and only lived because of Tortoise, and Luna is the only reason I could get out of the corner after, so it's pretty safe to say that after Electric Cherry those were my 2 crutches. Dealing with wardens was mostly just juggling them in between melees and the acid trap. These rounds took me way longer than normal and were honestly just tedious to play. Whenever the wardens run into the zombies, they scatter them and make them stagger all over the place, which made some serious issues for me trying to isolate them. On 35, I even had to duck into the showers because I couldn't get out of the way. On 37, I finally downed again, but I call bullshit on this one. You can clearly see my shield being held, but I still die anyway. This down was a big deal because I had no more perk ups and I had lost my Blendergat that I was using for Cherry. I still had the Helion, but I ran way slower with that, and that's not good. And yes, here I did shoot my pistols, but I shot shocked zombies that already would have died anyway, so I don't think it's really a big deal. On 42, I went down once again one knifing, but this down was just me being too risky, so I can't really be mad about it. Regardless, I had to make a dangerous trek to get perks back on round 42, which was pretty scary, especially in the spawn room. I was out of self-revives now though, so I had to be extra careful just to make it 8 more rounds. From here on, I'd start mostly running with my shield out to try and stay alive. Despite me saying that I'd be cautious, I managed to knock myself down to just 20 health the very next round. And on 44, I also got nearly insta-down from a horde, and it's safe to say that I paused the game and nearly had a freaking heart attack after that. With only 5 rounds left, I was shaking in my seat, thinking I might actually do this. Needless to say, this was the worst warden round yet, which resulted in me having to leave the cafeteria more than 5 times to space myself. More than 5 frigging times I had to leave this cafeteria. After some close calls, I barely got through though. On 46, I felt so liberated because if my math was correct, I could reach 50 with no more wardens and maybe even with a dog round. Sadly, this liberation wasn't good though because I got too comfortable and knifed into a horde, ending it all. After spending 2.5 hours with the ballistic knife, I can confidently tell you to please never do what I just did because it was awful. Obviously, I thought about finishing the challenge, but the extra energy required to do that again is just not in me. This was so difficult for me to do. Even though I died early, I can definitely say that yes, you absolutely can reach round 50 with a ballistic knife and zombies. I can also confidently blame my failure on my awful loadout because in hindsight, there are so many better perks and elixirs I could have substituted. Anyway though, thank you for watching me suffer and tune in next time because I love hurting myself and I am definitely going to do this again.